I'm Dana Shagru with CEAg World Greenhouse Produce, an innovative brand that engages with the rapidly expanding global produce industry through a variety of platforms. Our mission is to educate and connect greenhouse produce growers and industry allies to help them better understand and sustainably advance the global food industry. On this episode of CEAg Talks, I'll be speaking with Paul Brentlinger, CEO and president of CropKing, a greenhouse and hydroponics supplier, about getting started in hydroponics. Paul, welcome to CEAg Talks.
Hey, Dana, thanks. I appreciate it.
To begin, can you tell our viewers a little bit more about CropKing and your experience with hydroponics?
Sure. So I'm second generation here at CropKing. It was started by my parents in the early 80s, 1982 to be exact, and I was 4 years old at that point. So my life has been pretty intertwined with hydroponics from my earliest memories. I remember as a kid running around in the greenhouses. My first jobs were in the greenhouses. I had a greenhouse in the backyard when I was like 14 years old, and it was a soil base. I just grew in the ground in it. But I think that was probably my first personal experience of CEA. And yeah, I've always grown up understanding, or at least in thinking, that hydroponics was how food was grown. So we would go to Disney and see Epcot, and I'd be like, "Oh, this is cool. It's like home." And, everybody else goes to Epcot and is like, "Whoa, what is this?" So my experience with hydroponics is all I can remember. I don't ever remember not, being involved with the hydroponics space. CropKing, we have obviously focused on hydroponics exclusively for the history of the company. And that kind of just comes out of my dad's story, which was he bought a commercial greenhouse in the 70s when he graduated from college, and they grew cucumbers and tomatoes, and it was a nightmare. They bought it from a company in Florida, and it had all sorts of issues. The system had a bunch of issues and didn't work, and they didn't have any support system for their customers or growers. And so that business failed. And then my dad actually went to work for that company in Florida to help them develop a support system for growers. So that's kind of what CropKing was born out of. That company that he went to work for eventually got bought out by private equity and then went bankrupt, which I guess rings a little true to some of the stuff that we've seen these days in this space. But so when that company went out of business, Dan had left about 8 months before that and started CropKing. And so that's kind of where CropKing was born, with the very specific intent of setting people up in commercial vegetable crop production, utilizing hydroponics and greenhouses, and then providing the support and training to make them successful. And so that has been our mantra for the last 40 plus years. And I think it still is a very valuable benefit, necessity to people who are getting into this space still today.
Yeah, from what I've read from you and your company, I know that education is a really important piece for you guys. So I wanted to learn more about the workshops that you host for growers who are looking to get started in hydroponics. Can you tell our viewers a little bit more about those?
Yeah, we've been doing these workshops now for over 3 decades, and we've done them all across the country. Currently, that schedule is basically we start doing them in April, and we do them every month through November. And then, our tomato crop we tear out in December and replant, clean out the greenhouses, so it gives us a little bit of a downtime. And then we cap them at 16 people just to kind of keep it personal and a little bit on the smaller side. But we feel that the goal of those workshops is to disseminate information that will facilitate growers making the best decision as they're trying to figure out, do I want to get involved in CEA? And if that answer is yes, how do I want to get involved in CEA, right? Like CEA is such a broad spectrum, and we do focus and specialize very much in that, I would say, mid-tech, right? We're going to be growing all year round. The greenhouse will be operational. We're going to focus on as much control as we feel we can economically provide a grower without burdening them too much upfront from a debt capex type of consideration. So I think that our workshops are enjoyed. Like, we've got quite a range of people. Everybody from hobbyists will come to attend them, to educators, extension agents, and then obviously people who are considering doing this as a profession or for a living. And we try and get them some hands-on. I would say it's about 60% classroom, 40% in the greenhouse. So you get some hands-on experience and exposure to a greenhouse. And then we like to tell everybody it's a 30,000 foot view of what you're going to experience as a commercial grower, right? It's 2 days, so it's not exhaustive. And what we typically suggest to people is that you're going to leave with more questions than you came with. And that's our goal, is so that you're thinking through this on the bigger picture. If someone decides they want to get into CEA, it's not an inexpensive move, right? You're probably talking at least a six-figure investment to get involved in hydroponics and controlled environment agriculture. So we don't take that lightly, that we're trying to get people to do that. We want them to be very well informed, understand the risks, but also understand how they can be successful.
But what personal advice do you have for growers who want to pursue hydroponic growing?
Oh, so much. Personal advice for growers. I think that the first thing is make sure you love it, right? Like, this is not a get rich quick scheme. That there's always been the joke of, how do you become a millionaire in farming and start with $2 million? But, we obviously don't think that's true. You can obviously make money, but the goal with farming traditionally is not that, hey, I'm going to become rich doing this, at least monetarily rich. And so, especially if you are a smaller grower, that's who CropKing focuses on. And we would probably label that as less than an acre, right? If you're less than an acre in size, you're probably considered to be a relatively small grower. And so my advice to those guys is make sure you love this, because you also probably don't have a board of directors. There's probably not a lot of C-suite type of people in that organization. You need to be self-motivated. You need to want to get up and go do this every day. You need to enjoy spending time in the greenhouse. You need to enjoy interacting with other people, because you're going to be your salesperson. You're probably going to be your delivery guy. So I think that's probably the number one advice, is make sure this is something you love before you decide you want to pursue it. And then the second thing is make sure that you have a good support team behind you. And that's really what CropKing has built our business around, is being the support system for our growers. And we're not the only company that has, good support behind their products, but I think that that's imperative to new growers, is make sure you talk to that team, make sure you enjoy talking to that team. When a new grower starts as a CropKing grower, we probably talk to them 5 to 10 times a week in that first year of growing. And so if you hate us, it's not going to be a fun first year of growing. And so whether it's us or a different company, I think that's great advice for a customer to take away, or a listener to take away from this, is that make sure that you enjoy interacting with that team who's going to be your support staff. Make sure you can get a hold of them, that you find them to be accessible. I think those are both important. I think another key to tell somebody as personal advice is you can only utilize what you understand. And so if you look at a CropKing package, our environmental control system, it's probably in that $8,000 to $10,000 range. There are operations out there that spent $1 million on an environmental control system, and most likely they have a lot of people on their staff that understand how to tweak that and really make that work for them. But if you're a brand new grower and you're doing 10,000 square feet of lettuce, you don't need to overspend on a lot of these things. And so we have historically tried to keep our systems relatively simple so that you're not overspending, not making it too complicated. You want these things to just work for you. So I feel like that's probably the start of personal advice. And if you would like to have more personal advice, feel free to reach out. I would love to talk to you personally if you're considering getting into the CEA space. This is literally what we do every day in, day out, is answer people's questions about what it takes to be successful in this industry.
Great. And Paul, make sure to put your contact form and a link below this video. So I'll make sure they know how to get in touch with you.
Absolutely.
Paul, those are all the questions that I had for you, but thank you so much for taking some time out of your afternoon to talk with me about hydroponics and CropKing in general.
Thank you, Dana. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate you reaching out.